So, without further ado, in part one, if you guys were present for part one or had an opportunity to sit through that, we really talked about what trauma is, right? We laid the foundation to understanding what that trauma happens to everybody. And I say this because what we see in the mental health space and just the health space in general is that things happen. We have experiences, events occur. And whether or not we know that our brain is processing that as trauma, it's still happening. Our brain and our body is registering that event in the system. So for many people, we can acknowledge that our brain has registered this memory. A loved one passed away, someone committed suicide. We have some type of event that occurred in the family where there was this big rupture. Our brain can register these things as memories. But sometimes what we forget is that the body also has memories stored with that event, and it registers things as well. So when, as I said in part one, we talked about, trauma, but we looked at it through this African-centered lens, right? Recognizing how certain things might be stored and registered for an individual versus how a collective group of people, like the whole of the Igbo community, the whole of the Yoruba community, Hausa, how different communities might experience trauma. We talked about the myths, like Africans don't get depressed. Mental health is an American problem, so Igbo people problem, but mental health is an all people problem, right? It's something that we all deal with, we all face. It doesn't discriminate, doesn't matter your color, doesn't matter how much wealth you have or don't have. Anybody can be impacted by a mental health crisis or a mental health issue. We looked at talking about the stigma, the shame, the fear, things like that we sometimes associate with mental health, and that how oftentimes these things keep people from pursuing getting help further, right? Because in our community, if you go and talk to your pastor about something, people will praise you. Okay, you have issue, go and see the pastor, right? Nigeria has a ton of pastors, but if you are feeling that same issue and you go see a therapist, people will look at you like, what's going on? They're mad. Like, what's wrong with you that you need to go and pay somebody to talk to them? But the reality is both of these things are needed. You need somebody that has the background, the education to be able to support you. And you also need somebody that can pray for you, right? If it's a spiritual battle that cannot be addressed with mental health, you need to have somebody that understands that and can be in the throes of prayer with you. So just talking about how these things shape our view of mental health. And then we looked at the role of survival culture, because as you heard I said before, Nigerian people, we're resilient, we're strong, we overcome. But again, that comes at a cost. If you look at any person, even most of you on this call today, I have a feeling that majority of you have at least 5 or 6 things on your to-do list that you got to get done. Whether it's, okay, I'm taking out these 2 hours to sit with this lady, but I got this to take care of, and I got to do that, and I got to turn in this report, and I got this assignment to do. We probably have a ton of things on our list of stuff that we're pushing through. But Nigeria in general is in survival mode. The economy is not good. Even if you have wealth, everything is expensive. Ordinary bag of rice is like the same price as a month of rent at this point. So it's just this idea that people are trying to survive. And because of that, they don't always have the time to step back, to slow down, to make time to take care of their mental health. And then the last thing we had was discussing how the generational piece shows up. So we've talked to our grandparents, our parents, we've seen what they do in the family, and we've seen how these things have gotten passed down from person to person. And the issue that we have there is that not everything that gets passed down to us is good, right? Not everything that our parents taught us is perfect, is the best. And I say this intentionally because, we love our ancestors. We love our grandparents. And honestly, if you were fortunate enough to even meet your grandparents, we thank God, or whoever you worship. Because with the way life is now, the wisdom in the elders, we don't always have access to that. And with technology at our fingertips, social media, just this live life and be glorious type of vibe, sometimes we miss those connections with our ancestors the way we're supposed to have them. But with those relationships, our ancestors lived in different times than us. If you have a parent still living in the village, the way that they see life is not going to be the same way you see life if you're living in the city. Just the pure nature of the environment being different means that you are going to be exposed to something else that they might not have been. Same thing with our kids. I mentioned in the last time I met with some of you guys, I'm a child and adolescent therapist. I'm young, but I ain't that young. But even the kids that I encounter, because of COVID, because of social media, sometimes I find myself having to help their parents understand how different life is. These kids are experiencing something way different than myself, who experienced something way different than my parents, and so on and so forth. I don't know if this is funny or not. It's funny to me. The last time I came to Nigeria, we went to some mall, and y'all, everybody had a phone and everybody was recording because they wanted to become Instagram famous. Now, here's the irony. When I was a kid, we didn't have social media. I'm like, I don't know what it looks like in Nigeria, but I remember visiting Nigeria as a child. And I just remember, like, to us being able to, like, play outside. If we went outside with our kids, things like that. As children, we were outside in the community playing, hanging out, things like that. So to have that ability as an adult to come back and see everyone's on their phone, everyone's shooting videos, right? No one's really connecting, sharing the stories. If you go to the village for the holidays, that may be when you see that connection happening. But when you're just together, you're seeing the young people the way they're moving nowadays, it looks really different. So I say this because this is where, when we talked about what trauma looks like and how it differs by people, now we go into talking about what that looks like for the body. So our shift is to really explore, because when we are silent, our body still remembers what happens. The objectives for today are, we are going to be looking at, describing how trauma can be held and expressed in the body long after the event has occurred. So you guys are going to hear me reference the body a lot, right? Because I really want people to understand, we talk about our brain, we talk, we don't feel. I don't know what it is about people, and I say this not just for Nigeria, not just for Africa, but hell, even America. People are scared to feel. We get in this space where something happens and we talk about it. Oh, let me tell you this story. Oh, let me tell you about what happened. Oh my gosh, this person passed away. Don't cry. It'll be okay. Just get over it. But it's like people don't want you to feel the emotion. They don't want you to sit in it and actually give your body the time that it needs to release that. So we really want to dig in and be able to talk about, how do we give ourselves the space to feel these things, but then move through them in a healthy way. Avoidance is not healing. Neglect is not healing, right? Awareness and processing is. So then the other piece is recognizing the signs of the somatic distress. So this means, like, being able to recognize what it is in your body. When you have this experience, when this event occurs, what's actually being kicked off in your body. We want to be able to tap into that and be able to process and discuss what that looks like when our body is actually tracking and registering what's happening. And then applying at least one of those techniques. So there's lots of tools that we use in the somatic space, right? Where we talk about the body, and we talk about how you can regulate the body when things are happening. So we want to be able to help you guys walk away with at least one tool, one strategy that you can use for yourself to practice. Because imagine if you're able to use this for yourself, imagine what that'll be like when you're now working with other people, when you're at home with your family and they're stressing you out, when you're working with a client, or you have a suicidal student that's come into your office and you're trying to figure out how to help them feel better so that they can walk out of your doors and not actually attempt suicide. Things like this are tools that we can teach, right? And then as we practice them, we get stronger and more confident in using them, and our people then start to trust themselves and their ability to use them.